Okay, so let's be real for a second. If you are tuning into this deep dive right now, chances are you are currently inhabiting a fortress made of highlighters and sticky notes.
Yeah, probably a few half-empty coffee cups scattered around too.
Exactly. You are in the trenches right now. You are prepping for the professional planning exam. And if you are like, well, most people I talk to, there is this one specific section that keeps you up at night.
The ethics section.
Yes, the ethics section. It's daunting.
It's the beast of the exam, really.
Right.
And for good reason.
Mm.
It is never just black and white, is it? It's always those 50 shades of gray that completely trip people up.
Right, because the examiners aren't looking to see if you can just, memorize a definition from a textbook.
No, not at all. They want to know if you actually have professional judgment.
They put you in this messy real-world scenario, something that honestly feels totally unfair when you read it, and they ask, what is the most appropriate action?
And usually, too, the answers look pretty good.
They really do. So our mission today is all about sharpening that judgment for you. We are doing a deep dive into 2 specific OPPI Dear Dilemma columns. And these are the sources you really need to know, not just to pass the test, but to actually practice later without getting sued or sanctioned.
Yeah, we are looking at 2 very different but equally sticky areas of practice today.
Which are?
First, we have Candid About Candidates, which tackles the intersection of planning and politics.
Mhm.
Can you have a lawn sign? Can you run for office? That sort of thing.
And the second one?
Second, we have the Prohibition against Supplanting.
Supplanting. I mean, it sounds like something straight out of Game of Thrones. I shall supplant you.
It really does have a medieval ring to it,
Hmm.
but it is actually a critical rule about how planners interact with one another. It's about the boundaries between professionals.
Okay, I like that. So if the first topic is about the boundary between you and the public, the second is about the boundary between you and your colleagues.
That is a really helpful way to frame it. Boundaries.
Let's start with the first one then. Candid about candidates. I want to set the scene for you listening right now because I know visual cues really help when you're sitting in that exam room. The source material paints a very specific picture here.
It does. It describes this patch of gray, gritty pavement. Standing there is a pair of casual sneakers, gray canvas, white laces,
Okay.
and flanking those shoes, sprayed right onto the concrete, is a blue stencil that just says VOTI with 3 little stars.
It's gritty. It feels very much like the street level of democracy.
Exactly. And that is exactly where the tension lies, because you are standing in those sneakers. You are a citizen. You have rights under the charter. You care about your community.
But you are also a professional planner.
Right. So the core dilemma this article unpacks is, how do you balance your right to participate in the democratic process with your professional obligation to remain neutral and objective?
See, this is where I play devil's advocate for a minute. If I am off the clock, right? It's the weekend. I'm a private citizen. Why does the Institute get to tell me what I can or cannot do?
That's a common question.
If I want to campaign for a local candidate who promises to finally fix the potholes on my street, isn't that just my right?
It is your right. And the source document makes that very, very clear. The Code of Ethics is not saying planners must be completely apolitical. You don't lose your citizenship the second you get your certification.
Okay, good. So I can vote.
You can participate, you can vote, you could even run for office yourself. But, and this is the big, but that will definitely show up on your exam, you have to navigate it with extreme caution. The key word in the title of the article is candid.
Candid, meaning open, honest, transparent.
Precisely. If you're going to participate, you cannot hide it. You cannot play both sides from the shadows. The guidance focuses heavily on transparency and the strict separation of your roles.
Okay, let's get specific for the exam then. Give me a scenario. Let's say I'm a municipal planner. My day job is to give objective professional advice to city council. But on the weekends, I am out door knocking for a specific counselor who is running for re-election. Where is the line there?
The line is drawn right at your professional identity. You absolutely cannot use your title, your professional status, or your employer's resources to influence that vote.
So when I am knocking on those doors...
You are Jane the neighbor. You are not Jane the senior planner for the city.
I see. So I can't say something like, hey, trust me, I work for the city planning department and this candidate has the best housing policy.
That is a hard foul. That is using your professional authority to sway a political outcome. That crosses the line from a citizen participating to a professional exploiting their office.
Got it.
On the exam, if you see a scenario where a planner uses their credentials to endorse a candidate, that is an ethics violation. Full stop.
What about the visuals of it? Can I wear my frantic, deadline-induced stress face while I campaign?
I mean, you can try.
Just kidding. But seriously, can I wear my city ID badge on my lanyard while I'm out canvassing? Can I send campaign coordination emails from my work laptop on my lunch break?
No. And no. That completely blurs the line. The public needs to see a clear separation.
Because of the perception.
Exactly. If the public perceives that the planning department is just a political arm of a specific candidate, the integrity of the whole profession collapses. That vote stencil from the article's imagery that is on the public pavement, it is not on your office desk.
Okay, let's ramp up the difficulty a bit. What if I am not just volunteering for someone else? What if I am the candidate? I decide I want to run for city council. Do I have to quit my job the day I register?
That is a classic exam scenario right there.
Mm.
You usually don't have to resign immediately upon declaring your candidacy, but you almost certainly have to take a formal leave of absence.
Especially if I work for the same municipality where I'm running, right?
Oh, absolutely. You cannot be a staff member officially advising council while simultaneously running a campaign to become a member of that very same council. That is the ultimate conflict of interest.
That makes sense. You can't be the player and the referee at the same time. But what about consultants? I feel like private sector planners often look at this and think, well, I don't work for the government, so I can do whatever I want.
And that is a very dangerous assumption to make. The source emphasizes that consultants are right in the thick of this too.
How so? Give me an example.
Okay, let's say you are a private consultant representing a major developer. You have a massive subdivision application going before council next month, and you decide to make a maximum financial donation to the mayor's re-election campaign today.
Oh, that looks very transactionary.
It looks exactly like you are buying influence, even if you aren't. Even if you just genuinely like the mayor's broader policy platform, the perception of bias is treated as just as damaging as actual bias.
So the candid rule applies to private practice too.
Fully. You need to disclose that involvement. If you are standing in front of council arguing for a private project, and you are also the campaign manager for one of the councilors sitting on that dais, you have a massive problem.
So if I see that on the test, the correct answer isn't necessarily don't ever do it, but it's more about declaring the conflict.
It depends on the severity of the overlap. Sometimes full disclosure is enough. Stating for the record, I am volunteering for Councilor Smith. But sometimes the conflict is so deep that you just have to recuse yourself entirely.
Step away from the file.
Exactly. You might have to say, I cannot professionally advise on this specific matter because my personal political involvement compromises my objectivity or the public perception of my objectivity.
That is the key takeaway, isn't it? It is not about a blanket prohibition on political life. It is about active management. You have to manage the perception.
Correct. The exam wants to see that you are always thinking about the public interest. Is the public interest served if citizens think planning decisions are being made as political favors? No. So you act to prevent that perception from taking root.
I really like that image of the sneakers on the pavement now. It really grounds you. You are a person standing in the city looking at a vote sign. You are allowed to care about your city. You just can't let your caring compromise your professional duty.
And remember, this streak goes both ways. You can't use your professional status to help a candidate, but you also cannot use your political access to bypass the professional planning process.
What do you mean?
You can't corner the mayor at a private campaign fundraiser and whisper in their ear to get your client's permit fast-tracked. That completely circumvents the transparent, equitable planning process.
Oh, that is a sneaky one. The classic backroom deal trap.
Exactly. Transparency is the antidote to all of this. If you are doing it in the open and you are rigorously separating your roles, you are usually safe. If you are hiding it or blending the roles together, you are deep in the danger zone.
All right, let's pivot. We are leaving the messy public square, we are wiping the grit off our sneakers on the mat, and we are walking into the office for our second document, the Prohibition against Supplanting.
Now, supplanting is a highly technical term. You won't hear it at a normal dinner party. But for the exam, you need to treat this word as a major ethical tripwire.
I want to really break this down because in the regular business world, let's say I'm a freelance graphic designer or even a lawyer, if a client hates their current provider, they fire them and they hire me. That is just the free market at work. Why is the planning profession different? Why is there a strict prohibition?
Well, it's not that a client can't switch planners. That is a huge misconception people have when studying. The client always has the right to choose their professional. We aren't locking them in a dungeon with a planner they hate.
Right. So what's the issue?
The prohibition is against you, the new planner, taking over the file without following the proper protocol. It's about professional courtesy and safeguarding the integrity of the file itself.
Okay, so paint the picture for me.
Right.
What is the classic scenario I am likely to see on the exam for this?
And picture this. You are sitting at your desk on a Tuesday morning. A potential client storms into your office. They are flushed. They are visibly frustrated. They throw a giant roll of architectural drawings on your table and say, "My current planner, Steve, is an absolute nightmare."
Oh boy.
They say, "Steve is ghosting me. He doesn't get my vision. I want to fire him right now and hire you instead. Here is a retainer check for $5,000. I need you to start work today."
And the immediate temptation is to grab that check, clear your afternoon, and say, "Steve who? I am your guy. Let's go."
Right. And on the exam, that exact answer, accept the retainer, and begin work immediately to assist the distressed client will absolutely be an option, and it will be the wrong option.
Because that action is supplanting.
That is supplanting. You are stepping into an active, ongoing engagement without clearing the runway first. The source document outlines a very specific, non-negotiable checklist you have to follow.
Let's walk through that checklist then. Because for an exam, I have a feeling the exact order matters here.
The order definitely matters.
Yeah.
Step 1, you do not start work. You pause, you acknowledge the client's frustration, you validate their feelings, but you explain that you have strict professional obligations to follow first.
Okay, so I hit pause. I leave the check on the desk. What is the very first question I need to ask that angry client?
You ask them clearly, have you formally notified the previous planner that their services are terminated?
And if they say, "No, I haven't told Steve yet, I just want to switch right now."
You tell them they have to do that first. You cannot touch the file until the previous relationship is officially severed. You cannot have two different planners of record operating on the same file without them knowing about each other.
That sounds like a recipe for a disaster.
It creates total chaos for the municipality reviewing the file and massive liability for everyone involved.
Okay, let's say the client says, "Yes, I sent Steve an email this morning explicitly firing him. Can I cash the check and start work now?"
Not yet. This is where people fall into the trap. You
Yeah.
cannot just take the client's word for it. Step 2 is verification. You, as the incoming planner, have an affirmative duty to contact the previous planner, Steve, directly.
See, this is the part that feels so awkward in real life. I have to call up Steve and say, "Hey man, did you get fired?"
It can be incredibly awkward, yes, but it is mandatory. You are confirming two things on that call. First, that he actually knows he has been terminated by the client. But second, and this is the critical part for the exam, you are asking him if there are any outstanding professional obligations or reasons why you shouldn't take the engagement.
Reasons why I shouldn't take the engagement. What does that actually mean in practice? Is Steve just going to say, "Yeah, don't take it, the client is super annoying"?
Well, he might say that, but professionally what we're actually looking for are unpaid fees or outstanding undertakings.
Fees, okay. So if the client owes Steve $10,000 for work he already completed, does that actually stop me from taking the job?
It generally should. The code suggests that you should not supplant a colleague when the client has outstanding financial obligations to that specific colleague for the exact same work.
But why, though? Is it just a guild mentality? Like we planners stick together to make sure we all get our money?
There is an element of protecting the profession from exploitation. Sure. If clients learn they can just rack up a massive bill, dump the planner, and move to the next one without ever paying, it devalues everyone's professional work.
That makes sense.
But it is also about legal liability. If Steve hasn't been paid, maybe he hasn't formally released the copyright on his technical reports. If you just take the file and start using his data to build your case, you might be infringing on his intellectual property.
That is a great point. It is not just about being nice to Steve. It is about ensuring the file you are inheriting is legally clean.
Exactly. And then there is the issue of undertakings. This is a big vocabulary word for the exam. An undertaking is a formal professional promise made to a regulatory body or agency.
Can you give an example of that?
Sure. For example, maybe Steve promised the local conservation authority that a specific environmental impact study would be completed and submitted by a certain date. If you take over the file blindly, you need to know if that formal promise is now your problem to solve.
Right. You don't want to inherit a legal mess that you knew nothing about.
So when you are looking at the multiple choice options on the exam, look for the answer that involves this exact sequence. Pause. Ask the client to notify. Contact the previous planner. Verify there are no obligations, and only then accept the engagement.
What if the client flat out refuses? What if they say, I absolutely forbid you from talking to Steve. I want this kept a total secret until we submit the new plans?
Then you decline the engagement, period. You cannot ethically proceed if the client restricts you from fulfilling your basic professional duties. That is a massive red flag anyway.
It is so interesting comparing the two. In the politics scenario we talked about first, the check is mostly internal. You are checking your own bias and managing your own perception. In the supplanting scenario, the check is external. You are actively checking with a colleague. But in both cases, the wrong answer on the exam is just charging ahead because you want to get things done.
That is a really sharp observation. The Code of Ethics is essentially a series of professional speed bumps. It is designed to physically slow you down in high-pressure situations.
Which is hard when you're stressed.
It is. Whether it is the excitement of an election campaign or the pressure of a brand new client waving a $5,000 check in your face, the code says, stop, think, verify.
Can we talk about a gray area in supplanting really quickly?
Sure.
What if I am just doing general marketing? If I send out a mailer or an email blast to every major developer in the city saying, hey, hire my firm, we are the best, is that supplanting? Because technically I am trying to get them to switch to me.
Great question. General marketing is completely allowed. You can advertise your services. You can say, I am the most efficient planner in town. That is just soliciting business, which is fine in a competitive market.
So what makes it supplanting?
Supplanting is specific to interfering with a known active relationship. If you know developer X is actively working with planner Y on the Dangtown condo project, and you call developer X directly and say planner Y is an idiot, fire him and hire me for that specific condo project that is supplanting.
Okay, that distinction is crucial for the test. Soliciting is broad and general. Supplanting is targeted and predatory.
Correct. And while we are on the topic of bad-mouthing colleagues, this actually connects back to our first topic in a weird way.
Really? How so?
Well, we just talked about supplanting as a private business issue. But think about the political arena again. If you are running for office or you're out campaigning and you stand up at a public town hall and say, the city planning department is completely incompetent and the planning director clearly doesn't even know how to read a zoning bylaw.
Oof. I mean, you are definitely scoring cheap political points at the crowd, but you are directly attacking a professional colleague.
Exactly. You are publicly disparaging the professional competence of another planner just to advance your own political interests. It is a form of reputational supplanting, if you will.
That's a great way to put it.
The code strictly demands we treat all colleagues with respect. You can absolutely critique the policy. You can stand up and say, I fundamentally disagree with this density recommendation for this neighborhood. But you cannot attack the person or their professional integrity.
That is a very fine line to walk, especially in local politics, where attacking the bureaucrats is practically a popular sport.
It is. And that is exactly why planners who enter the political arena have to be so incredibly careful. You are still bound by your professional code of conduct, even when you are standing on the stump. You do not get to just check your ethics at the door simply because you are holding a microphone.
So let's bring this all together for the listener who is probably staring at their notes right now, hoping this all sticks. We covered 2 key OPI documents today.
Right. Source 1 was candid about candidates.
And the visual anchor for that one is the sneakers on the pavement looking at the vote stencil.
And the core lesson there is, you are a citizen, yes, but you must separate your professional influence from your political rights. Be entirely transparent, disclose your conflicts, and never use your professional title to sway votes.
Perfect. And source 2 was the prohibition against supplanting.
The visual for that one is the angry client throwing the roll of drawings and the uncashed check on your desk.
And the lesson there is, do not take the job until you have cleared the runway. You have to notify the previous planner. You have to check for unpaid fees and professional undertakings. You must respect the transition process.
I can offer one meta tip for any exam questions that touch on these ethical topics. Always look for the option that actively protects the public trust.
Good public trust.
Yes. In the politics questions, you protect the public trust by ensuring the planning process looks objective and fair, not partisan or rigged. In the supplanting questions, you protect the public trust by ensuring that files are handled with continuity and professional integrity, not treated like cheap commodities to be stolen from a rival.
That really is the golden thread running through all of this. It is not necessarily about protecting you, the individual. It is about protecting the profession's reputation in the eyes of the public.
Exactly.
Yeah.
If you keep that public trust lens firmly on while you are reading the multiple choice options, you will almost always find the right answer.
Before we wrap up today, I want to throw one last curveball at you. We have talked a lot about what we cannot do. We can't supplant, we can't use our titles inappropriately. But is there a risk, especially today, of being too careful?
That is the exact question that keeps me up at night, honestly. We know we can't supplant a colleague. We
Mhm.
know we have to be extremely careful in politics. But consider this. We are in an era of massive overlapping challenges. Climate change, the housing crisis, social equity. Planners are very often the people in the room with the actual data and the viable solutions. If we are so terrified of crossing an ethical line that we just stay silent in the public discourse,
Then what?
at what point does our silence actually become a form of ethical failure?
Wow. That is deep. So you're asking, are we effectively supplanting the public interest by not speaking up just because we are afraid of looking too political?
Exactly. Where is the actual line between maintaining professional neutrality and falling into complicit silence when the community needs our expertise the most?
That is, yeah.
That specific question isn't going to be on your multiple choice exam,
Hmm.
but it is definitely going to be on the exam of your entire career. It is something every single planner listening right now needs to figure out for themselves as they move up in this field.
That is a heavy but incredibly necessary thought to leave on. Listener, you have got this. Review those checklists. Remember the sneakers on the pavement and that angry client in the office. And trust the professional judgment you are building. Good luck with the studying tonight.
You are going to do great. Just remember to breathe.
We will see you on the next deep dive.